Most people think betrayal sounds loud. They imagine screaming matches, slammed doors, shattered glass, and police lights reflecting in the rain. They're wrong. Real betrayal is usually quiet. It looks like a mother smiling across a dinner table while dismissing your achievements. It sounds like a father praising the wrong child again. It feels like watching someone wear your hard work like a tailored suit while everyone applauds how well it fits him. The cruelest theft isn't money. It's a credit. It's identity. It's the future someone steals by convincing the world they built what you created. My brother took 6 years of my mind, my talent, and my sleepless nights, and turned them into promotions, bonuses, respect, and a life everyone admired. My parents watched him do it. Then they asked me to apologize. This is the story of how I stopped being the floor he was standing on. Welcome back to Calm Drama Story. Get comfortable. Grab your coffee. Because this one hurts before it heals. And if you've ever been the invisible child in a family full of applause for someone else, this story is for you. The Addams family had 2 children. But if you stood in our hallway, you would assume there had only ever been one. Dylan's life covered the walls. There he was in a cap and gown, smiling as the future belonged to him. There he was in a press shirt with an internship badge. There he was, holding an Employee of the Quarter plaque. There he was beside Brooke, his fiancée, both of them tan and polished and bright enough to be in a catalog. There was one picture of me. One. It hung near the coat closet, half hidden behind the winter scarves. 9th grade science fair. I was 13, awkward, thin, holding a blue ribbon beside a project no one in my family understood enough to ask about. That photo had dust on the frame. No one noticed. Our house sat in a Midwestern suburb where lawns were trimmed. Church attendance was social currency. And success was measured by whose child got mentioned publicly first. My father, Richard Addams, had retired from engineering but never retired from command. He treated the house like a company in need of discipline. Budgets. Rules. Schedules. Final decisions. My mother, Diane, was softer on the surface. She baked casseroles, arranged flowers, and remembered birthdays. But softness can still choose favorites. And she did. Then there was Dylan. 27. Tall, handsome, charming in a rehearsed sort of way. He knew how to laugh at older men's jokes and compliment women without sounding crude. He could shake hands as he'd studied it. He worked at Meridian Technologies, a respected company 2 states over. My parents called him our star. Then there was I. Angela Addams. 22. Senior year at a state university, my parents chose because it was practical. I had a 3.95 GPA. I was researching machine learning systems under a professor who knew my name, my work, and my potential. But at Sunday dinners, none of that mattered. If I mentioned a paper I'd written, my mother smiled politely. "That's lovely, honey." Then she'd turn. "Dylan, tell your father about your promotion. You learn things when you're ignored long enough. You learn to observe. You learn to read rooms. You learn silence isn't emptiness. Sometimes it's surveillance." And what I eventually noticed was this. My brother loved talking about technical work he did not understand deeply enough to explain. At first, I thought I was being unfair. Then I started remembering. The late-night calls. The urgent requests. The quick questions. The years of borrowing. The first time Dylan stole from me, he called it help. I was 16. He was in graduate school for computer science. He phoned me in a panic. "Angie, I'm drowning. Can you just walk me through that sorting project you did?" I did more than walk him through it. I wrote most of it. 22. Senior year at a state university my parents chose because it was practical. I had a 3.95 GPA. I was researching machine learning systems under a professor who knew my name, my work, and my potential. But at Sunday dinners, none of that mattered. If I mentioned a paper I'd written, my mother smiled politely. "That's lovely, honey." Then she'd turn. "Dylan, tell your father about your promotion. You learn things when you're ignored long enough. You learn to observe. You learn to read rooms. You learn silence isn't emptiness. Sometimes it's surveillance." And what I eventually noticed was this. My brother loved talking about technical work he did not understand deeply enough to explain. At first, I thought I was being unfair. Then I started remembering. The late-night calls. The urgent requests. The quick questions. The years of borrowing. The first time Dylan stole from me, he called it help. I was 16. He was in graduate school for computer science. He phoned me in a panic. "Angie, I'm drowning. Can you just walk me through that sorting project you did?" I did more than walk him through it. I wrote most of it. 3 hours at my desk while he talked and pretended to contribute. At Thanksgiving, I saw an A+ printout magnet to the fridge. "I thought you said you rewrote it," I said. He grinned. "I polished it." I looked at Mom. She shrugged while washing dishes. Family helps family. That phrase became the family anthem. Family helps family. Translation. Angela gives. Dylan receives. Years passed like that. He'd call late. "Can you explain recursion? Can you check this framework? Can you look at this architecture?" Then later. "Can you just send me your notes? Can you forward that code? Can you share your files for reference?" Each request small enough to excuse. Each theft tiny enough to deny. Together, they built a ladder. And he climbed it. My real life happened in Whitaker Hall. 3rd floor. Computer lab. No windows. Buzzing lights. Burnt coffee smell. I loved it there. Because machines don't flatter. They don't pity. They don't favor handsome sons. They only respond to the truth. Either the system works or it doesn't. That year, I was building something extraordinary. An adaptive optimization engine for large-scale data systems. In simpler terms, it is software that could detect its own inefficiencies and reorganize itself in real time. It learned. It corrected. It improved. I spent 2 years building it. Every version saved. Every node is dated. Every breakthrough documented. Mine. Dr. Ella Marsh reviewed it one winter evening. She read in silence. Then lowered her glasses. "This is graduate-level work, Adams." "Thank you. Why are you here?" I hesitated. My parents said this school was good enough. Her face hardened in a way that felt protective. She opened a drawer and handed me a brochure. A prestigious university in Washington, D.C. "Apply." I laughed softly. "That place is for brilliant people." She held my gaze. "Yes." Then slid it closer. "You deserve rooms where people know what they're looking at." I took the brochure home and hid it inside a textbook. I never mentioned it at dinner. Dreams die quickly in houses where practicality is worshipped. My laptop was unreliable, so I kept backups on the family cloud drive. Dad had created it years ago for taxes, scanned warranties, and family photos. Safe. Convenient. Trusted. Or so I thought. Then one Tuesday night, everything changed. I was debugging code when my inbox chimed. Subject line. "Quick question about your optimization paper." Sender, Marcus Webb. He introduced himself as a former data architect at Meridian Technologies. Then came the sentence that changed the temperature of the room. "I noticed striking similarities between your work and the predictive analytics platform publicly credited to your brother Dylan Adams." My hands went cold. I opened Meridian's website. Found Dylan's profile. Found his technical blog posts. Opened the first article. The architecture diagram was mine. The logic flow was mine. The recursive load balancing mechanism was mine. He'd changed the names of variables. That was all. Like stealing a novel and changing character names. I couldn't breathe properly. I opened the family cloud account. Access history. 47 entries. 47 times Dylan had opened my folders over 3 years. Late nights. Weekends. Holiday mornings. Times I was asleep down the hall. Times I was presenting elsewhere. Times I trusted family. I sat in that fluorescent room for an hour. No tears. Just arithmetic. 6 years of theft. Promotions. Bonuses. Praise. Engagement ring. House payments. Respect. Built on my labor. And every Sunday, I'd pass him the salt. I brought everything to Dr. Marsh. Logs. Comparisons. Printouts. Rage. She read quietly. Then asked one question. "What do you want, Angela? Revenge or your future?" I said nothing. Because the truth was both. She nodded as if she'd heard it anyway. If you expose him now without a plan, your parents will cut funding. You lose stability. You lose time. She tapped the university brochure. If you move first, then act. You keep your future. I understood immediately. This was not about winning an argument. It was about leaving a system. I applied to the DC University in secret. Dr. Marsh wrote a recommendation so strong it nearly made me cry. I gathered evidence. Repository timestamps. Draft notes. Emails discussing breakthroughs. Cloud logs. Call records where Dylan asked me to explain his own code. I built a case the same way I built software. Carefully. Methodically. Without emotion in the structure. Emotion would come later. 3 months of pretending followed. I attended Sunday dinners. Smiled. Nodded. Listened to Dylan brag. He had received a performance bonus. He'd bought Brooke a massive ring. His division was presenting to executives. He was on the VP track. Dad raised glasses. Mom teared up. I buttered rolls and said nothing. Then one night Dylan called. Quick question, he said. He needed help understanding the recursive dampening function, the feature he claimed to have designed. I explained it, calmly, then documented the call. Date, time, duration, content. He was feeding the file that would bury him. Some people mistake patience for weakness. They don't realize patience is often a strategy. Then came the invitation. Friday dinner. Important family discussion, Mom said brightly. I knew immediately. They were going to correct me. To discipline distance. To demand gratitude. To restore family order. That week, I packed my apartment. 11 boxes. Books. Clothes. Grandmother's photo. Laptop. Mugs. Documents. I also prepared 2 emails. One to Meridian Technologies Compliance. One to Dylan's graduate school academic integrity office. Attachments. Code comparisons. Timeline. Cloud logs. Expert letter from Dr. Marsh. 46 pages. Professional. Calm. Devastating. I scheduled them for Friday morning. Before dinner. One final chance for my family to choose truth before consequences arrived. Friday evening, the dining room glowed with candles. Good china. Roast beef. Wine from the top shelf. Ceremony. Punishment always wore nice clothes in our house. Dad sat at the head. Mom is beside him. Dylan and Brooke crossed. My seat at the far end. Farthest from the door. Of course. We ate through nervous small talk. Then Dad cleared his throat. The trial began. Angela, your brother feels you've become cold. Unsupportive. Bitter. Dylan lowered his eyes modestly. I just miss my sister. Oscar-worthy. Mom squeezed his hand. We just want peace. Dad continued. You owe your brother an apology. For what? I asked. For jealousy. For disrespect. For this attitude. Then he added the leverage. Until you do, we are pausing financial support for your education. Silence. Mom looked sorrowful. Dylan looked pleased. They thought they had cornered dependents. They didn't know dependents had already moved out. I set down my fork. Looked at all of them. Then said one word. Fine. Relief swept the room. Dad smiled. Mom exhaled. Dylan leaned back victorious. I stood. Fine. Keep the tuition. The smile froze. I don't need it. No one moved. I was accepted to transfer to a university in Washington, D.C. full merit support. I confirmed 2 days ago. Mom gripped the table. You what? I'm leaving tomorrow. Dylan went pale. Dad's authority slipped visibly. Then Dylan found his voice. Angela, let's discuss this privately. No, I said. Let's discuss your algorithm. The room changed shape. I reached into my bag and placed my laptop on the table. Opened the presentation. Left side, my original files, dates, timestamps. Right side, Dylan's submissions months later. Same structure. Same logic. Renamed variables. I turned the screen toward Dad. Your son has been submitting my work as his own for 6 years. Dad stared. Mom whispered no. Dylan snapped first. She's lying. She's jealous. I stayed calm. Explain the recursive dampening function, Dylan. He said nothing. You told Dad it took 8 months to build. Explain it now. Nothing. Brooke slowly pushed her chair back. Looked at him like a stranger. Is this true? It was collaborative, he stammered. I met Brooke's eyes. He called me 3 weeks ago because he couldn't explain the code he claimed to create. She stood, picked up her purse, walked to the door. No shouting, no drama, just dignity leaving the room. The latch clicked. That sound was louder than screaming. Mom covered her face. Why didn't you tell me? I laughed once, without humor. I did. Every time. You called it helping family. Dad looked 20 years older. Dylan looked 10 years younger. A guilty child in an expensive shirt. I closed the laptop. Put on my coat. I'm leaving in the morning. Then I walked past the hallway photos. Past Dylan's framed victories. Past my dusty science fair ribbon. Out the door. I cried at the 4th stoplight. Not for the man Dylan became. For the boy he once was. When I was 5 and he was 10, we built Lego castles on the carpet. My tower kept falling. He fixed the base and said, there. Now it'll hold. Somewhere between that boy and the man at the dinner table, he learned stealing was easier than building. And no one corrected him. I left at dawn. Loaded 11 boxes into a rental van. Dropped my apartment key through the slot. Checked my phone. 14 missed calls from Mom. 6 from Dad. 0 from Dylan. He knew better. I drove east. Bought burnt coffee at a truck stop. Watched sunrise spill across the highway. And for the first time in years, I smiled without effort. Washington, D.C. was humid and alive. My dorm room was tiny. Cinder block walls. Single bed. A desk by a window. Perfect. No portraits of Dylan. No Sunday dinners. No comparisons. No shrinking. Just space. 2 weeks later, Meridian replied. An investigation had opened. Then Marcus texted. Dylan suspended. Badge deactivated. System access revoked. Real consequences move quietly, too. Dylan called 3 days later. No greeting. Do you know what you've done? Yes. They're going to fire me. What did you think would happen? It was just code. People say just when minimizing things they stole. Just code. Just money. Just trust. Just 6 years. You ruined my life, he said. I looked out my dorm window at students crossing campus. Peaceful. Earned. No, I said. You did. I just stopped covering for it. Then I hung up. Mom called next. Crying. Dad had co-signed Dylan's mortgage. If Dylan lost income, Dad was liable. Could I withdraw the complaint? For family? I closed my eyes. Even now, the ask was the same. Save him. Absorb damage. Protect the system. Mom, I said gently, I will not burn my future to keep Dylan warm. She whispered, you used to be sweet. I still am. I'm just not quiet anymore. In September, another email arrived. Dylan's graduate degree had been formally revoked for academic misconduct. Soon after, Meridian terminated him and pursued repayment of bonuses. 6 years collapsed in 6 weeks. I expected triumph. Instead, I felt light. There's a difference. Triumph means someone lost. Lightness means you stopped carrying them. Dad called in October. No authority in his voice. Only fatigue. I'm sorry, Angela. The first apology I'd ever heard from him. I stood under autumn trees and let silence sit between us. Thank you, I said. But sorry doesn't return 6 years. I know. And for once, I believed him. Brooke texted in November. I left Dylan. Not because of what you did. Because of what he did. Then another message. You deserved better. 3 words from someone who had barely known me. They landed deeper than all my mother's tears. Because they were true. My new advisor, Dr. Helena Torres, called my work exceptional. I nearly didn't recognize the word directed at me. I published a paper. Earned a fellowship. Taught undergraduates. Ran by the river in the mornings. Drank tea at night while code glowed across my screen. I built a life where nobody needed me smaller. Mom sent a handwritten card that spring. I'm learning. It's hard. I miss you. I kept it in a drawer. Forgiveness is not a reward for guilt. It is a door you open when ready. Not when someone knocks. A year later, my name appeared first in a respected journal publication. Adams, A. I stared at it for a long time. My name. My work. No fingerprints over it. No one is standing in front of it. No one is translating it into applause for themselves. Just mine. I framed the first page. Set it beside a photo of my grandmother, the only person in that house who ever looked at me like I mattered before I had proof. 2 women believed in me. One by blood. One by choice. That was enough. People ask if I miss my family. I miss the family I wanted. That's different. I answered Mom eventually. 3 lines. I'm okay. I hope you are too. Take your time. Dad sent money. I mailed it back. Put it toward the mortgage. Not cruelty. Truth. Dylan never called again. Neither did I. Some silences are punishment. Others are at peace. Ours was peace. One June evening, I sat beside the river with a new project open on my laptop. The water moved slowly toward places it did not ask permission to reach. I thought about my brother at 10. My mother is lighting candles for the image of a family instead of the reality of one. My father praises success while ignoring character. I didn't hate them. Hatred is another form of sting. And I had already left. The sun turned the water gold. I closed the laptop. Stood. Shouldered my bag. Walked toward campus. Toward work no one could steal. Toward a life no one could define. Toward myself. I didn't destroy my brother. I simply stopped holding him up. And sometimes, that is the most powerful thing you can do. Thank you for staying with me through this story. If it stirred something in you, leave a comment. I read everyone. And come back tomorrow. I'll have the coffee ready. And another story is waiting.